Never take a night shift job at a gas station in the middle of nowhere, especially not one off a highway that barely shows up on the map. Because after 2 a.m., things come out that shouldn't exist. And I should know, because I survived it. I'm not going to use my real name, and I'm not telling you which company I worked for. But I will tell you this. I took a job that I thought would be easy money. I needed to pay off some bills. I was tired, burned out. All I had to do was sit behind the counter at a gas station from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. 5 nights a week. That's it. No customers, no co-workers, no stress. That's what I was told. But the guy training me, he left out a lot. The gas station was off exit 74. You won't find it on Google Maps, not anymore. It was one of those old, half-abandoned roadside stations with flickering lights and a cracked parking lot. Behind it? Nothing. Just trees and black highway stretching forever in both directions. The guy who trained me was named Carl. He was in his 60s, barely spoke, smelled like cigarettes and diesel. The first thing he said to me wasn't, "Hey," or "Welcome." It was, "If anything weird happens, don't open the door, don't talk, just wait it out." I laughed, thought he was messing with me. He didn't laugh back. The first night was boring. A few truckers came through, bought snacks, gassed up. I watched security cams, stocked the cooler, scrolled my phone. Around 1:30 a.m., everything got dead quiet. No cars, no wind, no sound. Even the flickering overhead light stopped buzzing. It was like someone hit mute on the entire world. Then the bell above the door rang, except the door didn't open. I checked the footage. There was nothing, no one there. The door was closed. Still. Ding, ding. I thought maybe it was a glitch. I told myself it was a glitch. Then the cooler in the back opened by itself. Night 2 is when things got worse. At 2:03 a.m. exactly, a car pulled up. Black, no plates. The engine never turned off. The lights stayed on, but no one got out. It just sat there, humming. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then the lights shut off, but the engine kept going. At 2:17, the doorbell rang again, but still, no one came in. The camera showed static, just for a few seconds, then came back. That's when I saw the note. A folded piece of paper on the counter that wasn't there before. It just said, "But you're not supposed to be here." My heart dropped. I called Carl. He picked up and said, "Don't call me from the store, not during your shift." Then he hung up. Night 3. The power cut out at exactly 2 a.m. Not the whole grid, just the store. No lights, no cameras, no sound. I used my phone's flashlight and stayed behind the counter. Then I heard it. Footsteps, wet ones, like something dragging its feet across tile. They came up to the counter and stopped. I didn't look up. I couldn't. The sound stayed there for 10 minutes. Then, gone. When the power came back on, there was a handprint on the glass. But it wasn't a human hand. Too long. Too many fingers. The next day I went back during daylight and asked the old lady at the diner nearby if anything weird ever happened at the station. She paused, wiped her hands on her apron and said, "That place should have burned down years ago. The forest doesn't like it being there." She told me stories about people disappearing near exit 74, about shadows with faces seen in the woods at night, about a boy found in 1998, curled up by pump 3, whispering something in a language no one understood. He was never identified. He was never claimed. I asked Carl about it. He just said, "They don't like new people. You're still new." Night 5. My last night. Because I wasn't planning on staying past that, I brought sage, a flashlight, a metal bat. I was done being scared. At 2 a.m., everything died again. The lights, the cameras, the sounds. Complete silence. Then the gas pumps turned on by themselves. All of them. Click, 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 click. Then I saw the figure, standing at the edge of the lot, tall, thin, unmoving. its head tilted to the side like it was curious. Then it took a step forward, and another, and another. Its skin was gray and stretched tight. Its face was blank, no eyes, just two deep holes. Its arms dragged the ground, joints bending the wrong way. I ran to the back and locked myself in the bathroom. From the crack under the door, I saw its feet. Long, bare, wrong. It scratched the door 3 times, then whispered something I'll never forget. "You were invited." Then silence. When I came out 45 minutes later, everything was back to normal. No sign of it. But the floor was wet, and the cooler door was open again. I quit that morning. Didn't even wait for Carl to come in. I left the keys on the counter and walked 5 miles to the next town. 2 weeks later, I checked the news. The gas station burned down. No cause was listed, but one article said this: local officials investigating strange symbols found burned into the pavement at the site. One investigator reported hearing voices inside the wreckage before being hospitalized for shock. I've had nightmares ever since, and the worst part? Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, and I can still hear the gas pumps clicking on, one by one by one. Story 2. If you ever work alone at night, especially in places with locks and fences, you might start to feel like something's watching. That feeling? Sometimes it's not in your head. Sometimes there's actually something there. I used to work night shifts at a storage facility, one of those 24-hour self-storage places right outside the city. Barely lit, rows of metal doors, constant hum of fluorescent lights. Not a glamorous job, but it paid okay, and I liked the quiet. Until one night I started hearing knocking from a unit that shouldn't have had anyone in it. And once I opened it, everything changed. Let me explain how it worked. I'd clock in at 9:45 p.m., check security cams, walk the property once every hour. The place had over 300 storage units. Most were empty, especially overnight. We weren't supposed to interact with customers after hours unless it was an emergency. The gates locked at 10. Anyone still inside had to be escorted out. Simple. The first time I noticed something off, it was just a sound. 3:12 a.m. knocking, 3 slow knocks. From the farthest row, Unit 191. Now that row was empty. I knew that because we were doing pest control on it the next week. But there it was, 3 knocks, then nothing. I thought maybe it was pipes, expansion noise, rats even. Next night, same time, 3:12 a.m., 3 knocks. Then a voice, muffled, faint, sounded like someone whispering the word, help. I checked the logs. Unit 191 was listed as condemned, not just vacant, condemned. It had been sealed off 2 years earlier. No access, no renter, no key. I called my boss, left a message, didn't hear back until the next day. He just said, "Don't open it ever, I mean that." Then he hung up. No explanation, no follow-up. That next night I did my patrol and brought a flashlight just in case. I didn't plan to open the unit. I just wanted to see if the sound would come back. 3:12 a.m., right on time, 3 knocks, this time louder, angrier. Then the voice again, but now it was clearer. It said, "It's cold, let me out." I froze. Then I saw something I can't explain. The door to Unit 191. It was bending outward, like something was pushing from the inside. Not banging, pushing. Slow and steady. I backed away, went straight to the front office, watched the monitor, and I swear, there was a figure standing at the end of the hallway. Tall, thin, flickering in and out of the camera feed. Just standing, facing Unit 191, not moving. The next morning I checked the records. Unit 191 had only ever had one tenant, a man named Victor M. I won't say the full name. He had rented it for 6 months back in 2020. Then one night he was seen entering the unit on camera and never came out. The official report said he was never found, but the unit was welded shut 2 days later. They said it was a safety issue. They lied. My last shift was a Friday. I brought coffee, headphones, told myself I was imagining things. But when 3:12 a.m. hit, there were no knocks, no voices, just silence. I started to think it was over. But when I checked the hallway camera, Unit 191's door was open, wide open. The feed glitched out every few seconds, but I could see inside. There was movement. Not fast. Like someone pacing slowly in the dark. I should have left. I should have called the cops. But I was too stupid, too curious. I walked all the way down to that row, bat in one hand, flashlight in the other. And yeah, the door was open. Inside was nothing but shadows. And this cold, this unreal, wet cold, poured out like a freezer door had opened. And then I heard it. Breathing. Deep. Wet. Wrong. Not human. I turned to run, but the lights above me started shutting off, one by one, and I saw it in the dark. Not a person. Not Victor. But something wearing the shape of a man. Its arms too long. Its eyes too wide. Its smile too slow. It whispered, "Trade." Then everything went black. I woke up in the front office. The clock read 5:47 a.m. I checked the cameras. Unit 191 was closed again. Like nothing had happened. I quit that morning. Didn't give 2 weeks. Just walked. 6 months later, I went back out of morbid curiosity. The facility was gone, fenced off, overgrown. And on the front gate, someone had spray painted, 1911 still knocks. Sometimes, if I'm walking alone late at night, I still hear it. 3 knocks, always at 3:12 a.m. And I know what it wants. Story 3. There's no 14th floor in the building I work in, at least that's what the elevator panel says. But last night, it stopped there. And now I know why they tried to erase it. I work night security at a downtown high-rise, one of those sleek mirrored glass towers with too many lights and not enough people. It's quiet. Too quiet. At night, it feels like the building isn't asleep, but watching. I used to think it was just my mind playing tricks on me, until the elevator stopped on a floor that doesn't exist, and I stepped out. My job's simple. Patrol every other hour, watch the cams, make sure no one's breaking in or sleeping in the stairwells. The building is 35 floors high, office suites, law firms, finance people, boring stuff. And yeah, there's no 14th floor. They skipped it on purpose. The elevator panel goes from 13 to 15, standard superstition. Only thing is, last Friday night around 3 a.m., I was doing a camera check and I saw motion detected on the 14th floor, which again shouldn't exist. I assumed it was a glitch, but the elevator log showed something different. It had made a stop there for exactly 47 seconds. I tried to ignore it. Until the next night when I got in the elevator to do a sweep and the doors closed by themselves. Didn't hit a button, didn't swipe my badge. Then the panel lit up, but not with 13, not with 15. It said 14. No button, no floor label, just a red light. The elevator started moving, and when the doors opened, the hallway looked normal, but too clean, too empty. No furniture, no signs. Just a long, silent hallway lined with glass walls and offices that didn't seem to lead anywhere. Then the lights above me flickered, and I saw a figure at the end of the hallway, standing, still, facing me. I didn't move, and neither did they. Then I blinked, and they were gone. The next day I asked the building manager if there used to be a 14th floor. He just laughed. Every building has a 14th floor. We just don't number it. I pushed him, told him what I saw. He got quiet. His face changed. He said one thing before walking away. They locked it down after what happened in 2007. I went digging. Turns out in 2007, a lawyer working late went missing. Security footage showed her entering the elevator alone. The doors closed. She never came out. Her badge was last scanned on, you guessed it, floor 14. The next time I worked, I brought a camera. I needed proof. I waited until 3 a.m., got in the elevator. Didn't touch anything. At exactly 3:12, the elevator started moving. Down. The floor panel flashed again. Red. Then black. No number. When the doors opened, I stepped out. Same hallway. Empty. But this time I could hear something. Typing. A single keyboard clacking away somewhere in one of the glass offices. Even though I couldn't see anyone inside, I followed the sound. Every step I took, the hallway stretched longer. Behind me, the elevator doors stayed open, but it felt further and further away. The sound stopped. I turned a corner and came face to face with her. The missing woman. She looked the same as the photo I found online. Same suit, same hair, except her eyes were black. No irises, no whites, just solid, inky black. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Only static. Loud, violent, piercing static. I dropped the camera. Ran. When I got back to the elevator, the doors were still open. I slammed the button for the lobby. The elevator didn't move for a full minute. Then it brought me back down. And when I stepped out, it was morning. I checked the footage. Nothing. The hallway feed for floor 14, black screen. Camera ID not recognized. The time logs showed me on floor 12 the entire night. But the worst part? When I reviewed the footage from my personal camera, it was all static. Except one frame. Just one. A blurry still of the elevator doors on floor 14, and a shape behind me, staring. Watch the next video if elevators already freak you out. It's about to get worse.